So, Addie, I can't believe it. I mean, she's usually so busy. Old friend of mine, Randi Weingarten, who is the president of the American Federation of Teachers now, is going to come on with us. And I don't know where to start. Should we ask her about, like, AI learning or coaching kids? Or should we ask her about why people are so mean to her? Or should we ask her about, I don't know, is it going to be brain chips so we don't have to go out to school at all? What do you think?
It's great to have her. First of all, I think it's really incredible that she found the time. Look, she is a figure so much in the conversation that I think we can begin sort of with what's top of mind for her, because she is processing so much at the same time. But clearly, education, as we've talked about, has been politicized, it's been weaponized. It's impossible to look at any dimension of American life these days without it somehow going back to how we're educating our children. So, this is a
Right.
unique moment. I mean, when we were growing up, who talked about education to this degree even 5 or 10 years ago? But it's become a political football. It's a hot button. A lot of the 2024 election is going to be about education and critical race theory and what are we teaching, and we're teaching climate change and the gender issues. It's everywhere.
I mean, being Jewish, seeing that they're saying they're banning or burning books, it's like Kristallnacht. I mean, it's really weird. And the don't say gay. And
it's a dangerous time. Look, a friend of mine who lives in Florida, who's gay and has 2 adopted kids. If one parent in a school district, one parent complains about a book, the book is gone. So he said, here in New York, we don't realize the power that has devolved to these activist parents who want to control the conversation and ban Goodnight Moon or ban any book that talks about what it's like to be Black or queer in America. I mean, we don't feel it here, but down there, it's felt painfully every day.
Yeah. I mean, tie that up with, killing Roe versus Wade. It seems like it feels directional, but starting with kids is really scary. And I don't know. I don't think the voices are loud enough against it. But, well, my position. But
I think
I don't get it.
The anti-abortion force has spent 25 years since Roe 30 working for the moment that they had a year ago, whenever yesterday was the anniversary. They fought the battle in every jurisdiction and they won. And they're doing the same thing now with education, fighting it at the school board level. And they're organized and they've got loud voices and they've got political allies in states like Florida and Texas. So I think it's a scary time for people who believe, as we do, and I think Randi does, I know, that public education is an immutable cornerstone of American democracy.
I know. It's something I just tied up with, like, racism, homophobia, and transphobia, and all the phobias. It seems to be like a big round ball of hatred.
I was just going to say the classic Crosby, Stills, Nash song, Teach the Children.
Yeah.
Right?
How to hate.
That's what the debate is about, because we know the way that children are taught will be the way they're shaped. That's when the imprints are made.
I know. And I think everything's so confused. Like, I have a lot of friends up here, and I thought they were pretty open and liberal and everything. But now they're saying they don't want to go to certain schools because they're too woke. What could that mean? Like, they feel they swung too much the other way, so you can't say anything. So,
I mean, the wokeism is, it's amazing how quickly that entered the vocabulary, right? But yeah, I've heard the same thing you have, that we've gone too far.
Yeah.
We've overcorrected. Yeah.
It's better to overcorrect than to be that other way.
Well, the danger of overcorrecting is that you give ammunition to the other side who pulls out ridiculous examples that they then weaponize and they becomes the front page of the New York Post.
Has our vice president played at all in this question? being Black, being married to a Jew, seeming to be very, as we say, Hamish and warm. And yet I haven't heard that much.
I don't know if she was just in New York at Stonewall at the end of Pride Month. This is an overall question about just her ability to maintain a strong public perspective and voice and connect to people on issues. I don't think she's been vocal on education. Frankly, I don't think our Secretary of Education has been either.
Yeah.
With Betsy, right? Think about
ahead.
it. Do you even know who the Secretary of Education is?
I was just going to ask you secretly who it is.
I forgot myself.
You
I admit
did?
it.
Okay.
Yeah, I knew Betsy DeVos was
She
Secretary.
was horrible.
Yeah, but everybody knew her. She was horrible.
Yeah.
She was horrible.
Well, I mean, it's just amazing to have Randi on. I mean, I guess I know Randi for 200 million years, and she's always been, a renegade. And, I always said to her, be mayor, be president, be this, be that. I just think she's wonderful. She's a bit of a, she has that vibe of a great cop. Cops are my, blue cop, I love that uniform. And, she's like got that gritty, really big mouth, says what she thinks thing. And I just find it so attractive. I just think she's wonderful. And I think she's had to bear a lot of crap, frankly.
She is a lightning rod, and she's done a great job of bringing the conversation to the forefront of consciousness and being a staunch advocate for, as we said before, why public education is so critical and what it means and how we're at risk of losing that core value.
So, Adam, what do you want to ask her
so
first?
I'll kick it off. Thanks
first.
Softball. So, Randi,
you're not going to be like the Congress.
No,
worries.
We're 100% fans of yours.
We are. And, unlike Congress, who know how to turn on a computer also.
Yeah.
So you've been at this for a while, observing and participating in the conversation around education. Did you ever think that we would be at this moment where we would have such controversy and polarization and, let's face it, ugliness around what American public education is all about and should be?
I never thought we'd get to this level of dehumanization, which is what's going on right now, and the level of an attempt by basically very rich gazillionaires attempting to destroy public education and using whatever they can to do that. Betsy DeVos and others. We've always had battles in public education, and it's kind of obvious why. I mean, you can go back to Darwinism and the Scopes trial. You could go to the McCarthy era and communism. You could go to, what should we be teaching? Who should be teaching? The basically firing of pregnant women. So there's always been controversies, but the reason's obvious. We have our children's futures in our hand. And if it's not something, if that's not important, I don't know what is. So there's always been issues around public education, but the level of antipathy and the cultural battlefield that it is right now is different and really destructive.
Yeah, but it seems to be reflecting the bigger battle on the battlefield, which is, controlling people having abortions, controlling elections, denying elections, right? And it just like goes to this, then, of course, then we have to absolutely, I always think it's like crystal knot. We're taking books out of the library that somebody doesn't like, one person doesn't like them, and where democracy means like, don't mean to give your speech, but democracy is open. So do you ever, like when you go to bed at night, do you ever like, after you're done crying in your pillow, do you ever think like, can I do this another day? What keeps you going?
Oh, Faith.
Yes.
Why don't we just say your name?
Okay.
What keeps me going? I don't mean to, I don't mean this to sound like I wear rose-colored glasses, because I do not. And I don't mean it to sound like, oh, I'm just part of love and joy and everything's going to be fine, because you know me a long time. That's not me. I think what happens is exactly the reasons you talked about. The stakes in this are what's here when I do this. The reasons you talked about the stakes are the reasons I continue doing this work. The stakes are enormous. What public education does, what voting does, I would actually say what unions do, these are the opportunity agents for regular folks, for people who are not born with a silver spoon in their mouths. And so if you have them, they become opportunity agents for people. And I feel like the more smears, the more demonization, the more division, the more important it is to create the stable, secure, creative, welcoming environment so that kids thrive. It's really, and I get this from you to some extent. It's really, are you looking at the future and the potential and taking the possible and making it into the probable? And what tools and conditions do you need to do that? And so democracy, knowledge, schooling, freedom, this is what a growing society is about. This is what an expanding society is about. And so I feel like it's really important to lean into what we need to do. And the other piece I would say is, frankly, how lucky am I that I actually have a little piece of ensuring that people have a future. So even with all the smears and all the stupid, and it's not as if it doesn't hurt. I mean, I think the New York Post called me a monster yesterday, but it is, but think about the opportunity that I have, that I am in the nexus of the labor movement and of an education movement, and can really help opportunity for kids and for working families. So that's what I think of when I go to sleep.
That's beautiful.
How lucky am I?
That's beautiful. Addie, you were going to say something?
I was
Sorry.
just going to ask about the two narratives that are out there. One is the narrative that you just articulately and eloquently set forward about education as opportunity agent. And it's how public schools have been that, City College was that, the book City on a Hill is about City College, Traub's book. On the other hand, Parents Matter, which taps into a very primal network that people have anyway. And the other side, if you will, the Republicans have used very effectively in Virginia and Florida. So in many ways, it's a dueling narrative war. Do you think the narrative on your side is as crisp and as clean as compelling in the bumper sticker test of Parents Matter?
Well, it's not nearly as crisp, but I think it's more compelling. And I think what you're seeing more and more in terms of polling and parents in the last couple of years is that most parents believe in a lot of the things that teachers believe in. So parents, of course, matter. But most parents don't want book burning. Of course, most parents want us to do things that are age appropriate. And most parents want us to be teaching honest history. Moms Rising just did a poll that said 92% of voting moms wanted honest history taught, and 78% of voting moms didn't want book banning. Red, Wine, and Blue is a group of suburban moms, and they are saying that for us to raise 21st century children, they look at Moms for Liberty and others and say, how dare you stop us from having the books we need our kids to read? And so what you're seeing is the extremist bumper sticker was about division. The bumper sticker on our side, we could say teachers want what children need, or teaching conditions, teachers' teaching conditions are students' learning conditions, or every public school should be a place where parents want to send their kids, educators want to teach, and kids thrive. Or, you can do a bunch of these things, but the reason ours is not as crisp is because ours is about all. And parents are different, and kids are different, and teachers are different, and all their voices count. A conservative parent's voice counts as much as my voice counts, as much as a liberal parent's voice counts. What I worry about is that when we do these top lines, the kids who are really marginal or marginalized, the kids who have been left behind, the kids who are poor, they get left behind even more, because what we're not doing is we're not dealing with the textures of their lives or their needs. So we deal in grays, not in black and white, because we deal with all and trying to lift up all.
Well, just a brief interruption for this. You're the president of the American Federation of Teachers. I think maybe people out there don't know what the American Federation of Teachers is. So can you explain it to us?
Sure. So we are a 1.7 million member organization. We represent a lot of people who make a difference in other people's lives. So we represent teachers, for example, in New York City. The UFT, that's New York City teachers, are members of our union. But we also represent many, many, many nurses in Oregon, in Connecticut, in New Jersey. We are the fastest growing healthcare union, the second largest nurse union, the largest higher ed union, and the second largest teachers union. What the through line for everybody we represent is that they all make a difference in other people's lives.
So they're not necessarily teachers.
No, we represent, as I said, we are the second largest nurse union.
Right.
And so we represent a lot of people who make a difference in other people's lives. And so a lot of what we do is about fighting for the conditions that people need so that they can do their jobs well. Obviously, as a labor union, we fight for the conditions and the wages that people need to be part of a middle class. But we also are really concerned about the work we do and ensuring that it is the best that we can do, because we know that work actually helps people have better lives.
You don't call yourself a union, right? You call yourself federation, and you don't only work for teachers, but you say teachers, maybe it's time for a name change.
We are thinking, breaking news. First off, we love being a union, so we call ourselves a federation, but we are the largest union, never shy away from that word, in the AFL-CIO right now. And we have actually been, this may be breaking news, we have actually been thinking about a name change and thinking about a branding exercise because of how many healthcare professionals we now represent. This year, this is how you know something is changing in America. This year, from January to right now in June, we have now organized 42 new units, over 8,000 people who wanted to join a union, from librarians to medical, to x-ray technicians, to nurses, to doctors, hospitalists, doctors who work in hospitals, to lots of different teachers in charter schools. People really want and need to have representation. And so we have 42 new units as of from January to now. We've never
That's
had
fabulous.
that many, but we have grown each and every
Yeah,
year.
I think it is time for a rebranding or a name change, because I think that, I mean, that's actually what Addie and I, do a lot, because I think you're doing yourself an injustice. And even as far as what you do, I'll just say, you're a lovely Pied Piper. I mean, you should, I think, be seen with children near you. I know, you're not seen like that. You're seen like behind the podium and somebody's yelling at you, it's a vicious. So anyway, that's my off the top advice. But
no, let me just say, Faith, people don't I spend a lot of time, if you look at the columns that I write in the New York Times, the pictures there are almost always with kids, because I spend most of my time in schools, and I spend most of my time with kids or with the people we both represent
on
and serve.
TikTok. That's where you got to be, Randy, with kids.
Unions were vertical forever, right? Steamfitters Union, and now what you're saying is you're horizontal. You are not connecting people just by what they do, but what they care about and the impact that they have.
Yep.
So it's an impact. It's
exactly
an impact
right,
union
Adam.
versus a vertical employee-based union. That's a really interesting shift in the model, which I do think could be the catalyst for the kind of rebranding you're talking about.
Then why do you think unions are coming back? I think they're coming back big time, Randy.
They are. They're coming back big time because regular folks feel so unempowered.
Right.
Because the economic rules of the game have been arrayed against
rich people.
People who are, they're arrayed in favor of rich people, and they've been arrayed against people who are struggling and striving. And so what unions do is they create power in the collective. And by joining together, you have power.
True. Yeah, because I was reading, were you reading today? Starbucks, they're striking, they're mad. Everybody's mad. Amazon.
Starbucks. Well, the Starbucks workers and the Amazon workers are treated like shit. And I mean,
that's okay.
Excuse the vernacular. I don't know if I can say that
fine.
here.
I think you did.
Okay.
Thank you. Yep. Whoops. But and so the Starbucks workers, I've been in the Starbucks where the first organizing drive was, which is right outside of Buffalo. They've now fired the first organizer. Why did they fire her? Because she was late once to work, and then late a minute, a few weeks later, a minute late. And what has she done? She was basically the organizer of the night shift, I think, or the morning shift in that store for years and years and years. And her direct supervisor was upset of having to fire her. This is all based upon this kind of automaton model. So Starbucks will tell you that they care about their baristas, but in truth, they think about this as a factory model that they've perfected. And there's a reason why the baristas all across the country want to organize. They want a life. They want healthcare. They want decent wages. And Starbucks pretends that they do that when in reality they do not.
Randy, so you've obviously followed what happened with the Dylan Mulvaney post and what it did to Bud Light and so forth, and billions of dollars of equity lost because a few people protested, or a lot of people protested. Now you have the story you just told about Starbucks, and you don't have that protest on the left, right? You don't have the left punishing Starbucks, which it could, and driving change, which it could, the way the right was able to do with
Bud Light.
With Bud Light. So why do you think that dissonance exists? This gets back to the narratives, right?
Well, look, I fear and hate have always had great energy behind it. And what you have in what and as does the third rail, which is always race and gender. And so let's, so Bud Light, I would just say that there's a lot more complexities in terms of labor than there is in terms of the fear that the extremists have done in terms of dealing with race and gender. And what you had in terms of the Bud Light situation is, as look, you had it with the Target situation too, is that the right wing has done a huge amount of research, the same, billions of dollars into research to see what will create fear and chaos and division. And Bud Light walked into that, but you can see there was a report just recently from where was it? From I think it was in the New York Times, where they basically said they threw spaghetti on the wall and they figured out what would really create division because they're going for suburban moms, and they thought trans kids. I mean, how is it that trans kids are all of a sudden the most dangerous people on earth? Not Putin, not Xi, not others, not the North Korean dictator, but trans kids. So
the 5 trans kids.
So it's about.
Right? I mean, yeah.
It's about. So you have to at least understand it to know how to react to it. And we have to be the beloved community. And you look at where the arc went for a long time in terms of the acceptance of people who are gay. I mean, I'm the first out leader of a labor union. Most people used to think about unions as dudes with cigars. I'm the first out labor leader. And I was the first out as much as I can I think the history will say this. I'm the first out education leader. And the level of acceptance that even though the right wing goes after me because I'm Jewish, I'm married to a rabbi, I am, a teacher, I'm from New York, and I'm gay, and I'm female. So there's a lot of reasons why they go after it. But if you think about over the course of the last few years, the level of acceptance in terms of our community has been huge. And so what they're doing is they've hated it all this time. So they're ratcheting away. And the same in terms of abortion. They've hated it for all this time. But what is also happening now is you see how they are losing on the abortion fight politically. The problem is that so many women and young people are getting hurt as we fight this fight. So we gotta fight. But I would actually argue we fight by winning hearts and minds, not by hate versus hate.
Right.
Beautiful.
Right. But they've mastered the hate narrative pretty well. I mean, look at the brand of this phrase, Oath Keepers. It's not, versus the Committee for Social Equity, Justice, and Fairness. It's Oath Keepers. Pretty good brand.
Right. Moms for Liberty.
Exactly.
Oath Keepers.
America first.
But what's underneath it is a lot of hate.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think, like a Jeff Bezos who knows he's got a problem in the factories with Amazon and, doing on a mega yacht with a yacht behind him for all this stuff he couldn't fit on his regular yacht? I mean, what?
Selfish or
self-destructive?
Well, I would actually argue both, but, he would argue that he's not. I mean, take Elon Musk. They would argue that let me go back to when I was a school teacher.
Okay, good. What grade?
Robber barons.
You're right. I was just going to say,
11th
right.
and 12th grade. robber barons versus captains of industry, looking at them in the same, so what what my region's history curriculum said is you should have a debate about that. And we did. Are they robber barons, or were they captains of industry, or were they both? And, but what's happened now is that the labor movement was about striving for the middle class and staying in the middle class. And what has happened in America is that there's been a lot of focus on getting rich and thinking about, after one has gotten rich, that it wasn't all of us that helped that person get rich, but think about Trump. I alone can fix it. I alone did it. And so the community parts of this, like, what helped you get there, gets forgotten oftentimes by the very, very, very wealthy. How is it that hedge funders pay less of a percentage of their income in taxes than teachers or firefighters?
I don't understand.
So the rules are broken. The economic rules are broken, and it's taken. And Biden is trying to do this. He's trying to fix it. And it is an uphill slog, even though there's 13 million more jobs, and even though inflation is going down, and even though the supply chains have been fixed, or many of them have been fixed. But it is really this notion, I think, of America was about the American dream, was about strugglers and strivers getting into the middle class. That has gotten broken, and you see a lot of selfishness and a lot of me, and you see that in some of the division too. So we're about unity, we're about bringing people all together, we're about lifting everyone, and there's a whole bunch of people who are about divide.
I always think, when you look at the pictures of John D. Rockefeller and Carnegie and all those guys, the malefactors of great wealth, as Peter Roosevelt called them, they wore these big hats and they looked very austere. Our billionaires are Hamish. They wear T-shirts and they wear sneakers, and they're informal, so they're not as difficult. They're much easier to like because they're more accessible. So I think some of the wealth is more tolerated because they're just cooler.
Or what you see is that in America's always had this fight between individualism and the collective. And what you see is lots of people aspire to be millionaires or billionaires.
Yes.
And so there's a different appetite about that. If there's one thing we should be doing, we should be making the middle class cool again.
I love that. Yeah.
We made the middle class cool again. And because that is something that you could go from the improbable to the probable to the possible, to the improbable to the possible. And if all of a sudden people thought the middle class was cool again, that getting into the middle class, aspiring to the middle class, staying in the middle class, having a decent pension, having decent health care, being able for your, kids to go on a vacation every now and then, and that was cool, you'd see a difference. Because when people feel so mind-numbingly like there's no future for them, that they can't own a house, or they can't have a decent job, or that they don't have retirement benefits, that it's crushing. And so what happened in some ways with the trade deals from the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, it changed the view of the middle class about whether somebody can aspire, and if they play by the rules, they work hard, they play by the rules, they'll be okay. That, if we could change that, I think you'd see a huge change in America.
That nostalgia, that's Morning in America. That's what Reagan, that's the picture Reagan painted in the famous Morning in America commercial. That's why.
That is a beautiful goal. I mean, let's all move to Levittown and be happy.
Well, I wouldn't say move to Levittown and be happy and be like, the houses on the hill being exactly the same. But I would say that economically, if you actually looked at what Biden has been doing in terms of Inflation Reduction Act, the bipartisan infrastructure bill, the CHIPS Act, is this notion of buying in America, making in America, having a manufacturing renaissance, but also making those jobs cool again. If welding was a cool job, if coding was a cool job, think about what that would mean. Nursing, cool job. Phlebotomist. It's, finding a way to take what is regular and make it cool.
We're going to work on that, Andy. I think that's very fun.
We need to bring the middle class back.
Yeah, you could.
Yes, exactly right.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
And with AI
I
and
was
with
just gonna
all of
bring
this
up
other
AI.
stuff going
Yeah.
on, look, we have to reinvent the middle class, because if we don't, look at what those, I love this. The people who were the creators of AI write a letter, public letter, saying to everyone, we may have created something that destroys
Very
all of us.
stupid.
How does that make anybody else feel?
That's a dumb thing
about
to
that?
do. That's that's like guilt and anticipation. I don't know. I was going to ask you about this because Harvard just said today that they're designing something that each student could have their own, like, coach. It wouldn't give you the answers, it was clear to say, but it would help you. So, one of my kids had a processing disorder, which, it was really tough. And, all kinds of learning styles and everything from autism to just like lazy or whatever. That's what I was. Or what do they call us? What do they call us? Late bloomers. I'm still like late, but what do you think?
I would never have thought
I'm
that
a little
about you.
late.
Faith.
I don't know. Thank you, Andy. You're so sweet. No, if everybody knew how sweet you were, I think you'd get a lot. I think you get more cooperation. I think people see you not as sweet as you really are.
I think what happens is that they need to
Demonize you.
They need to demonize me because what I stand for is hope, aspiration, knowledge for all, and I fight for that. And it's very hard to see someone who is a female fighting hard in a man's world for justice and respect for predominantly female professions. So I think the demonization is intended because it scares. It changes the status quo. I'm trying to change the status quo to make sure that everybody has a shot.
So anyway, Harvard was going to say every student will have their own coach, own AI coach. What do you think about AI in the classroom or helping kids?
Look, I think AI. So I want to go back to the beginning of technology when people pretended it wasn't going to exist, it wasn't going to change things. We're not going to be able to. We're not going to communicate by email. We're not going to have email. We're not going to have all. It was ridiculous. These things are here. You either harness them or they overrun you. I think that so AI is here, and frankly, we had this amazing moment where one of my staffers to our entire exec council did a presentation of ChatGPT, and and said to ChatGPT, something about please write the following, paragraph on Randi Weingarten, and you could then see that, and you could see the faces of my, and these are the vice presidents from all across the country. You could see their faces and their jaws drop. But people have to have knowledge about how to use it. There needs to be training. So a coach is really important. But think about, CUNY, Queens College being able to give a coach to every student there. Some of that is resource issues. So a coach is really important to help you. But you have to be open enough to want to learn. You have to apply. You have to be able to critically think, discern fact from fiction. All of these things are skills that we need to we need our young people to learn. But at the same time, there needs to be guardrails. And the ingenuity and the invention can't outrun the accountability, the safety, the safeguards. And what happened with technology, with the first generation of technology, not generative artificial intelligence, but the basically coders coding intelligence and telling us and then the technology being able to do what humans do but just faster. What happened is it outran the accountability around it, and so this is now a huge challenge for both the tech companies and for government, because the safety considerations, the deep fakes, the misinformation, all of this needs to be dealt with. And at least what Europe is doing is they are far ahead of us in terms of dealing with this.
So, Randy, if you had an avatar, think of how much more ground you could cover. That's next. Addie, anything else?
No, I just want to say that, when we read your speech for the National Press Association, there was a line you talked about what schools do for community, what public schools do for communities, but people come together in good times and bad times. And it struck me that if I didn't know that was coming from you, and I thought it was coming from somebody harkening back to a simpler day in America from the right, it would have been something that, yeah, you could say that. So I said to myself, there's so much power in that narrative. I just wish that people could put aside the demonization and realize that we're all after the same thing. That the political layer is real, but what you described is America, the power of community through the lens of public education.
Right. So I think that in itself is what's really scary to the demonizers and the destabilizers. And if you follow the money, you can see why. And so our job, my job, is to try to get to scale on this simple notion, but really powerful notion that school can be the center of community. School can be about knowledge. School can be about future, and school can be about bringing people together to have a deep understanding and tolerance of each other. And from understanding and tolerance comes growth, diversity, embracing, and being able to seize one's future.
I would leave it at that. I don't think we can top that, Randy. So. That's beautiful. And, we wish you all the best. And I'll just say we're here for you. We'll brainstorm on your brand or anything else you want.
We'd love that. I really would love that too.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And fantastic. I'm going to take you up on that.
And, we're both in New York.
No, I'm serious.
We'll just come over and we'll get together and we'll do some thinking. We'll be happy to help. You deserve everything you've gotten, and you deserve more what you're going to get, I hope. And just let us know how we can help. Okay.
Fantastic. And thank you for this.
It's beautiful.
It was really fun.
You're just phenomenal. Unexpected how adorable she is, right?
Yeah, very true. Yes. Completely,
For real.
Yeah, very Hamish, very genuine, passionate, but human, humble.
And that does not come through. That does not come through, I don't think.
No.
Well, her name, look at this branding. My God. Now we have to help her a little bit.
We could help her a lot. I think that she's open to rebranding the union and reframing the whole conversation. So we got it. Let's do that. This is the 21st century opportunity. Before Faith and I go, I just want to remind you to subscribe to Jolty, follow us, listen on your podcast platform of choice, tell your friends, make your enemies like you better, and get Jolty out into the world. We thank you.
Yeah, beam us up, babies. Ciao.
Beam us up. Keep us up.